Welcome back to the Crypto's Key conversation. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at some updates with Ripple status, the Ripple versus SEC stuff, and stuff that's going on behind the scenes with this Ethereum free pass and just the demeanor and presence of the SEC on the entire market. We're going to be taking a look at a couple different videos from Johnny Deaton, digital asset investor. We're also going to be taking a look at this report from Cointelegraph says City of Fort Worth votes in favor of Bitcoin mining program, which sounds super bullish. And then the big news of today is Fidelity to be the first major retirement plan provider allowing investors to put Bitcoin in their 401ks. So we're going to be taking a look at this Cointelegraph article, and then MicroStrategy with Michael Saylor to offer employees Bitcoin retirement plans. So a lot of positivity coming in the space with this. This is absolutely massive. This is trillions of dollars that potentially be coming into the space. Billions on billions for sure. So coming over here on CoinGecko, we're currently sitting at a $1.86 trillion market cap, currently down 4.5%. So we've taken a hit, and as you can see, 24 hours, Bitcoin's taken a 4.4% hit, and we're currently sitting at 38,426. Ethereum sitting at 2,845, and so on. As we come down here, XRP is sitting at 65 cents. There's a I know Doge was running pretty hard. ApeCoin has been pretty steady, and they've been having a lot of success. But Doge, with the whole Elon Musk and Twitter. Elon Musk buying Twitter, there was a lot of positivity and price movement with Doge over the past couple of days. Coming over here to the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index, we're currently sitting in this fear range, and who knows, when this updates in 2 hours and 4 minutes, we could come back down into the extreme fear range. So we'll just kind of wait and see. But obviously, there's still a lot of market uncertainty. There's a lot of different narratives going on and a lot of different stuff going on, not just in the crypto space, within the regular markets, and then just the geopolitical stuff that's been affecting the markets as well. So coming over here, we're going to start with this tweet from Cowboy Crypto. This is the video with Brad Garlinghouse, and it's a 3-part series, so we're going to take a listen in.
Honey, I know. Now joining us is Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse for an exclusive interview. Brad, it's great to get to speak with you. One of my favorite parts about doing this show in particular is the audience is really engaged, and they always are tweeting things at us during the show, after the show, and a consistent question we get is, when are you going to talk about Ripple and the SEC? So I'm glad we are finally getting to do so. Can you just give us the latest on where you stand in this case?
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you for having me. I think it is, as you introduced, the reason why the Twitter crypto community cares so much about this question is it's not just about Ripple. It really is, as was introduced, that the whole industry is impacted by this decision. And the core question, as was kind of set up at the beginning, boils down to a 1946 Supreme Court case that has become known as the Howey test, a test to determine is something a security or not. And look, at the end of the day, we have other parts of even the United States government who have called XRP the digital asset that's native to Ripple's technology stack. It's been called a currency. It's been called property. The irony is the only country on the planet that thinks XRP is a security is the United States, SEC. The case has gone well.
Yeah.
It's still playing out. The SEC, in our judgment, has certainly moved slowly. Typically in these situations, when the SEC brings the case, they want to move quickly. They have been dragging their feet. Gary Gensler said recently publicly that justice delayed is justice denied, and unfortunately, justice is being delayed here by continuing efforts by the SEC to push things out.
Okay, well, Brad, our litigation analysts here at Bloomberg Intelligence think that the SEC ultimately is going to win this. That's just an opinion. It's a hypothetical scenario, but in that scenario, how does Ripple move forward?
Well, look, I think the Howey test is being stretched beyond recognition. And again, there's a 1946 Supreme Court case. So the idea that XRP, which we use as a currency, the idea that that's a security, I think is just misguided. But look, unfortunately, Ripple is already operating in a world where it's as if we have lost, right? So in the United States, XRP has for all intents and purposes, there's no liquidity. It's been halted and frozen. Record year last year. We continued to grow very quickly across our major product groups. Even Q1 was a record for us. Now, unfortunately, that growth is almost all coming from outside the United States, and we are hiring more and more people outside the United States. But our customer base now is about 95% non-U.S. companies, non-U.S. payment companies.
And what are you seeing out of those customers with regards to the use of the crypto assets, Brad?
Look, the demand for our core product, which uses XRP to facilitate these cross-border payments, frustrating that here in the United States, where we have led innovation in so many different industries, we have an agency that is over the United States.
Yeah, and we kind of know how this plays out, Brad. I worked in Washington for a lot of years with some of these agencies. I'm going to rephrase the question I asked before, because it seems like what the SEC is going after, and for that matter, the CFTC, is a look at the use case, and I guess how they determine, at least in their viewpoint, the use case for crypto assets ends up becoming, I guess, the base case for what type of regulation you end up with.
I think that's super fair. Look, I think the different use cases, and one of the things I have certainly pushed from the earliest days of my tenure here at Ripple is it's all about utility. And there's going to be different shapes and different sizes. We're going to live in what I describe as a multi-chain, multi-crypto world. There isn't going to be one winner to rule them all. And I think the way the SEC here in the US at least has acted is, hey, we'll comment on Bitcoin, but we won't even comment anymore about Ether, despite previously leadership of the SEC saying that Ether is not a security. So I believe very much utility does matter. The facts and circumstances matter. But time and time again, what we find is the CFTC is the most appropriate regulator for this industry. And I think you find that uniformly across the whole industry.
So, Brad, you talk about how the U.S., this is kind of a U.S.-specific issue in many senses. How do you see that being formative in the States? How far behind does America risk becoming?
Well, I think one of the key measures here is if you were starting a crypto or blockchain company today, whatever use case you might be, whatever utility you might be pursuing, would you start it here in the United States where you don't have clear regulation? Or would you choose a jurisdiction like Switzerland or the United Kingdom or Singapore or even UAE? Would you choose a country where you do have clear laws? The advice I give entrepreneurs, and even the advice I give investors, is if you're starting a company today, start it where you have that certainty and clarity so you can build knowing where the guardrails are. Here in the United States, we simply don't have that. We've been asking for that. One of the great ironies of this whole story here in the US is the SEC at its core has been a group that demands transparency, demands disclosure. Yet they, in this case, are doing the exact opposite. They're hiding their notes. The judge in the case has demanded that they turn over notes to us. They've been resisting that for over a year. So in a world where the SEC is all about disclosures and transparency, they're doing the opposite here. They're claiming that this is the wild, wild west. Crypto's not the wild west here in the United States. These are regulated entities. It's just they want to be the regulator, and they're thinking more about what's kind of in the empire building of the SEC, as opposed to how do we make the U.S. super competitive to lead in this industry as we did in the age of the internet back in the late 90s.
All right, Brad, we're going to...
So, long story short, it's not just about Ripple and XRP, and I'm glad how he broke everything down. He gave some facts based on the separation between Ripple and XRP and what their statuses are as separate entities in a sense, and they're talking about how Ripple utilizes XRP as a currency within obviously their working product and having their utility and use case, and the struggles and strains that they're going through with the SEC in regards of trying to hold them to this Howey test that's completely irrelevant to the technology that's presented to us today, and so many different things. And then he carries over into the damaging aspects of it for the entire industry, is like not having that regulatory clarity, and you're forcing these innovation and these workers and these developers and these entrepreneurs that are going to be developing these blockchain projects and so on offshores outside the U.S., making us less competitive, pushing us further behind the rest of the crowd, which isn't going to be positive for the United States, let alone the entire crypto industry. So coming over here, just a good transition over here is, this is from Johnny Deaton, digital asset investor, and this is like the link to a little interview panel that they had. Digital asset investor says the SEC investigated Ripple for 30 months, according to Johnny Deaton, and was able to come up with 0 instances of fraud. When is the SEC going to investigate the Ethereum Foundation and all their orgs? I bet dimes to donuts, as Mike Novogratz style, that it would be much more interesting. And then Johnny Deaton says, imagine certain companies or platforms trying to get through a 2.5-year SEC investigation. Hell, they can't even pass our team of internet sleuths, investigators, let alone surviving one with subpoena power. So this subpoena power, man, if this happens and the class action lawsuit, Johnny Deaton get the subpoena power, or if it's in power oversight, oh my gosh, that is going to be absolutely insane. But let's take a listen into this.
I always go back to, like, people say to me, how could you invest in Ripple? And I use this lawsuit as an example why, right? Because we know that for 30 months, they looked at these guys and they investigated them. They were turned over every transaction that Garlinghouse and Larson made and every transaction Ripple made between 2013 and 2020. And after 2.5 years, they didn't come up with one claim of fraud or misrepresentation. Now, I'm just saying is that how many other platforms could you say for sure there wouldn't be some allegation? And people say, well, you don't know that for sure. And I'm saying, if you're going to drop a lawsuit against them and you can claim fraud, you're going.
That's the first thing on the
that's
on
the
your
first
list.
thing you're going, because that's the hammer. You're talking about criminal
Absolutely.
penalties. You're talking about all kinds of punishment. And if they had that kind of hammer, they would have done it, and they didn't. And so, to me, that gives you at least some confidence that the company's being above and beyond. You know what I mean?
So, but you do sell it regularly, right? Don't you sell it into the market?
Transparent about that. How much do you sell?
When necessary. Sure.
And I think, look, I'm talking about transparency because I think for the whole industry to mature, we need to be transparent in the industry. Ripple, I think, has tried to lead by example with that. And I think there's other ecosystems that I have no idea what's going on in those ecosystems. And I don't think that's good for the whole industry. And so I think that's bad for Ripple, too. The only interjection I have here is I find it interesting that Ripple is attacked for being transparent. Because we are very proactive, and we put actually the next XRP markets report, which we do quarterly, will come out sometime at the end of this week. But because we share that information and we're attacked for it, yet other platforms don't share that information, and so they are insulated from those same critiques and criticisms. I think in the dictionary that's called hypocrisy. I'm not 100% sure, but it's close.
Is there any plan for greater transparency within Consensus in terms of how it deploys its Ethereum?
Internally, sure. And we're a private company, and we
Ripple's a private company too.
Absolutely. And transparency is important to us, but we also have to be strategic about information that we release. And
So just coming back over here, for those of you, I know a majority of the people that's going to be viewing this and people that's been a part of the community, we already know all about this video, but this is Brad Garlinghouse and this is Joe Lubin from Consensus. Brad Garlinghouse is pretty much calling his bluff and calling him out on this so-called transparency that, that they do not present. And obviously says internally we're going to have transparency, but we have to be very strategic about what we share. And it's like strategic, but we're showing you everything, but we're scrutinized and we're dropped under the SEC, laws and lawsuits, investigations, but you guys are clear and free to go. And you're starting your Ethereum 2.0, also known as consensus layer, but we're constantly under the strain and microscope of the industry and the SEC and the regulators, but you guys are able to do your thing. And then coming over here, Digital Asset Investor had put in when Joe Lubin was caught on audio, literally talking to, whales during their Ethereum offering and talking about disguising their whale purchases and having multiple purchases in smaller batches and, setting up pseudonymous emails so you can kind of avoid detection. And it's like, okay, this is all the shady stuff that's happening. You have a company that's trying to do things right, trying to do things by the book, trying to literally meeting with the SEC and regulators, trying to figure out like, hey, are we doing this properly? And if not, how do we go about doing this properly so we can follow the rules, stay following the law, not breaking any rules, considering investor protection. So, our project, our utility can flourish and change the world that it's set out to do. And then you have other companies that are being, super shady, having, closed door meetings with, certain government officials and certain, companies and agencies and all having this cohorted group gathering in this plan to give Ethereum this free pass so it can create a monopoly within the industry. It's just crazy that these things are happening, let alone the SEC comes down on Ripple, but they're not just coming down on Ripple and XRP. They're coming down on the investors that they're set out to protect. Crazy. So moving on here, Digital Asset Investor had put up a good tweet. Someone had emailed him this, and it says, "Hey, DI, those whales did not drive to that meeting. They flew in private jets. So go to the flight logs for the closest executive jet airport where they would have landed to attend the meeting." So talking about attending the meeting that I was just talking about here, I'm sure when it comes to this, getting information about this Ethereum ICO, this Ethereum offering. So it's like, that's a great point. Like, if someone is able to, go and track these logs, these flight logs, and see who attended these meetings, that would be absolutely massive. So he says, somebody email me what might be a fun idea. Everyone knows by now the Disguised Wells video where Joe Lubin explains that he will help disguise well purchases in Ethereum ICO. We want to know who the Disguised Wells were. Here's the email. So he's talking about, go ahead. If anybody knows how to do it, go ahead and try to surface this information. So I'm curious to see how things roll out and if anybody does come up with anything from this. Moving on here, and I apologize, there's a bunch of video footage I don't want to show, but these are like 2-minute clips. But I think it's highly important that I show this, and it kind of goes hand in hand with what I'm covering today. So this is from Digital Asset Investors. He says, quote, "We are leading the enterprise blockchain company, period, full stop. Ripple is in a position that I compare to Amazon circa 1997. Books is the cross-border payment for Ripple." So right here, and he says, know what you own, folks. Johnny Deaton says, the most disruptive technology always gets sued by regulators trying to protect the incumbents or to protect specific technology supported by those same regulators and a select few. So coming out here, let's take a listen in.
So first of all, I appreciate you asking the question that way. A lot of people still conflate Ripple and XRP. Ripple is a company of which I'm the CEO. XRP is an open source technology that lots of people participate in. Ripple cares a lot about the XRP ecosystem, but there are a lot of people that do. Ripple, the way I would describe it is simply, we are the leading enterprise blockchain company, period, full stop. My viewpoint is there are lots of use cases for blockchain technologies in the enterprise. Knowing how to sell into, knowing how to engage from a customer success point of view and get enterprises using blockchain technologies to improve the efficiency of lots of different kinds of transactions. We're just at the beginning of that journey. Ripple started with cross-border payments and selling into financial institutions. We now have hundreds of financial institutions. We've done millions and millions of transactions, billions and billions of dollars. But I do view it as an enterprise blockchain company as opposed to just payments. I was talking with a gentleman named Jose back here in the back about the ecosystem that Ripple's really creating around other enterprise use cases. And there's a lot going on. And I think Ripple is in a position that I compare to Amazon circa 1997, where Amazon at those ages, which you and I will remember, it wasn't Amazon, it was Amazon Books. The name of the company was Amazon Books. And it competed with Borders and Barnes & Noble. Today, obviously, it does lots of things. I think of Ripple, our first vertical, the books is to cross-border payments for Ripple.
And for XRP, how would you say that?
Look, I mean, for me, we use XRP not just because we own a lot of it. We also use XRP because from a payments point of view, it's extremely fast. A transaction settles in 3 to 4 seconds. It's extremely inexpensive. You're talking about 1/1000th of a penny, and it scales very well. And so, if you're talking about $120 trillion of cross-border payments, a lot of the different digital assets out there, it would be hard to use them for that use case. Look, I introduced myself earlier. I'm a kid from Kansas who, wears red, white, and blue on the 4th of July. The United States, look, I'm sure this is probably being streamed and recorded, but I'll do something I rarely do.
Disclaimer.
I rarely do this when I'm being recorded. The United States is fucked. It's just like...
That lady's voice in the background when she started laughing had me rolling. Because when I first seen the video, I did the same thing. But obviously, coming over here, let me go ahead and... viewing this and kind of seeing his viewpoint, how he talks about Ripple and, in its use case, them utilizing XRP and why it's important. And then coming over here talking about, the United States, it's just like everything's irrelevant in regards of what Ripple is trying to do in regards to their utility and them utilizing XRP and what the impact that it can truly have on the entire world. It's not just about the United States. It's not just about Ripple and XRP. It's about the entire world, the entire industry, which is absolutely massive. We can see the writing on the wall when it comes to the crypto space. So when it comes to the crypto space, there's a lot of different projects that have a lot of different verticals, as he says, that has a lot of different, utility and use case that problems that they're trying to solve. And obviously this is the one that, Ripple and XRP are focused on: cross-border remittances, cross-border payments. So it's like, with the SEC coming down on them, them being under a microscope, them being constantly scrutinized for them being transparent and trying to do things the right way, all it is hindering and suppressing their ability to do that. Now, with that being said, they're still out there building partnerships with, central banks and companies, around the world, which is absolutely massive. And he's been talking about in several interviews how they're developing a lot of, partnerships and communications, outside of the U.S. as they're still under this, SEC investigation, this SEC lawsuit. So it's kind of merely interesting in a sense, but, with the SEC lawsuit, it is hindering a lot of people from, buying into Ripple and XRP or, investing into it. And then them not having the regulatory clarity that they need, knowing how to move forward, is also hindering, suppressing, what they're trying to do, which is crazy. And with all that being said, with Ripple and XRP and the crypto industry, we go back down to the investors, the everyday people like me and you that are truly trying to set our families up for success. Not just for our, perfect example, me and my wife as, adults, not just for our kids, we're talking about for generations to come. It's like we're trying to do everything in our power to make sure our families are set up. And investing in XRP and Ripple was one of our ways of doing that. So with, this whole Ethereum free pass, ETH scandal, all these shady players with these backdoor or closed door, deals that they're trying to do, and, the lawsuit dropping on Ripple and XRP and yada, yada, yada. All it is affecting the everyday people that are working hard every day to make a living for themselves, which is crazy. So coming over here, Johnny Deaton had a great tweet that ties perfectly into what I was just saying. It's from his Crypto Law. It says, remember this in February. It took months to force these first emails out. He's talking about the 1,000-page emails from the Freedom of Information Act with Jason Foster and Empower Oversight. Says it took months to force these first emails out of the SEC, which led to more emails and more revelations. More is still coming. This doesn't just happen. It takes hard work, expertise, and strong community that never quits engaging the government. So right here, he goes, I know with longer delays than necessary, it is easy to think nothing will change, so why bother? Keep fighting, never give up. I just got a call today by a credible journalist from a major publication, and a story is in the works. At some point, they cannot ignore the truth. So with everything that I just put up, just to end on in regards to this Ripple SEC stuff, to end on this Johnny Deaton tweet is so powerful. It's gonna get to a point to where they can't ignore the truth, and once that happens, the floodgates are going to be open. So to transition over, let's go take a look at these two little articles right here. So this from Cointelegraph says, City of Fort Worth votes in favor of Bitcoin mining program. It says, quote, we're going to become the first city in the world to mine Bitcoin here on site at City Hall. So coming down here, it says, quote, in this rapidly evolving industry, better understanding, 1, the evolution of crypto and future outlook, 2, what institutional voids might exist in the current laws and regulations, and 3, how government and municipalities interact with this technology. So this is quite interesting to see. So I'm curious to see how this thing unfolds and how things work out. Obviously, they're going to have to make sure they got their infrastructure set up properly for something like this, which I'm sure they will. And this is the talk of the town today. It says, just in Fidelity to be the first major retirement plan provider allowing investors to put Bitcoin in their 401ks. The 23,000 companies that use Fidelity to administer their retirement plans will have the option to put Bitcoin on the menu. So coming over here, it says, if approved, the retirement savers can allocate 20% of their savings portfolio to Bitcoin without the need to open a crypto exchange account. Coming out here, quote, we started to hear a growing interest from plan sponsors organically as to how Bitcoin or how could digital assets be offered in a retirement plan. We fully expect that cryptocurrency is going to shape the way future generations think about investing for the near term and long term. Yeah, way to figure it out. Coming over here, obviously we've got Michael Saylor's Michael Saylor's MicroStrategy to offer employees Bitcoin retirement plans. That was a tongue twister. The firm will be the first company to give employees a chance to add Bitcoin to the 401k savings account. So that's absolutely massive. I mean, and we're talking about, I think they were talking about like something like over 2 trillion or something when it comes to this, but there's trillions of dollars. And there was something else I saw in a tweet that was talking about like, 30, 40 trillion or something. But there's billions and billions of dollars that could be coming in regards to this. Do you know how much money is tied up in 401ks? This is absolutely crazy. And if, as people, become more comfortable with, the crypto space, and as we get the regulatory clarity we need and people become, gain confidence in the space and they start, having a better understanding of what's going on, all that adoption is just going to grow tenfold. You're going to have a tsunami wave of money coming in. So these 401ks is a massive, massive aspect of it. And on top of that, we have spot Bitcoin ETFs popping up, around the world. So it's just a matter of time before the US gets it. But this is a huge stepping stone in adoption and bringing more, capital within the space, which overall is going to grow in space. Look, we're currently sitting at a $1.86 trillion market cap. I mean, if we're talking about billions and billions or even trillions coming in, this is going to be pennies one day. It's absolutely massive. With all that being said, stay strong out there. Be safe.